You know that feeling when you leave a conversation and instantly start replaying it in your head? You wonder if you sounded awkward, if you talked too much, if they noticed that pause. Maybe they didn't laugh at your joke. Maybe they thought you were trying too hard. You start editing the memory, line by line, as if you could rewrite the scene to make yourself appear cooler, smarter, more composed. But the truth is, that person probably moved on 30 seconds after the talk ended. The only person still in that conversation is you. And it's not just you. Every human brain is wired to constantly predict how others see us. It's called the social prediction loop, a built-in survival mechanism that evolved when being accepted by the tribe literally meant staying alive. Your brain constantly runs simulations. Did I say the right thing? Did I sound confident? Did they approve of me? The problem is, in the modern world, that system never turns off. You walk into meetings, open your phone, post online, and this ancient approval radar keeps scanning, reading every facial expression, tone, emoji, and silence as a potential threat or validation. No wonder your mind feels tired after simple interactions. You're not socially anxious, you're neurologically overloaded. But here's the twist. You can't silence that loop by convincing yourself to care less or not overthink. The harder you try to suppress it, the louder it gets. Because the loop isn't a thought, it's an attention habit. It's your focus being pointed inward at the exact wrong moment. You think you're being self-aware, but what you're really doing is self-monitoring. And self-monitoring kills presence. Every time you mentally zoom in on yourself, how you look, how you sound, how you're being perceived, your brain shifts from flow mode to evaluation mode. You go from connection to performance, from expression to control, and people feel it instantly. They can't name it, but something in the interaction feels off, stiff, hesitant, slightly delayed. That's the cost of approval seeking. You start losing the very authenticity that makes others like you in the first place. So how do you break it? Not by trying to stop caring, not by repeating affirmations, but by making one tiny 5-second shift in where your attention lives. I call it the engagement switch. Here's how it works. The moment you notice yourself thinking, "How am I coming across right now?" Don't fight the thought. Instead, redirect your focus completely outward, onto one concrete sensory detail of the other person or the environment. For example, notice the color of their eyes, the tone of their voice, the rhythm of their breathing, the way the light hits the table, any real physical cue that's happening right now in the external world. It sounds absurdly simple, but neurologically this flips your brain's prediction circuit. You move from being the subject of attention to being the observer of reality. From how am I being seen to what am I actually seeing? That 5-second shift from self to scene is the exact point where anxiety dissolves and connection begins. Because the human brain can't be in two modes at once. You can't analyze yourself and fully engage with life at the same time. It's one or the other. When you're in self-focus, the prefrontal cortex lights up in self-evaluation mode. It's calculating, predicting, performing. When you shift outward, the same region activates a different circuit, the one used for empathy, curiosity, and real-time awareness. The approval loop breaks not because you became fearless, but because your attention changed its target. Think about it like this. Your brain is a camera. Most of the time, it's pointed inward, zooming in on every flaw, every uncertain detail. The engagement switch is simply flipping the camera outward again. You're not erasing self-consciousness. You're updating its direction. You become conscious of the moment, not of yourself. Now, here's what's fascinating. This shift isn't just psychological, it's physical. Studies on social anxiety show that when you focus outward, your heart rate variability increases, your breathing evens out, and your body exits the threat state. That's because your nervous system can't stay in fight or flight when the environment stops feeling like a mirror. You're no longer performing, you're perceiving. That's the biological essence of confidence, not arrogance or dominance, but safety in expression. You stop bracing for judgment and start participating in reality. Let's make it concrete. Imagine you're in a conversation. You're talking, but halfway through, you feel that familiar tension. Your chest tightens. You start monitoring your tone, worrying you're rambling. The instant you notice that inward pull, do not fight it. Don't tell yourself, relax. Instead, perform the shift. Pick one external anchor, maybe the person's eyes or their hands moving as they talk. Just notice it. Observe it for 3 to 5 seconds, then respond from that anchored state. What happens next feels subtle but profound. Your timing smooths out. Your words flow easier. You stop hearing your own voice in your head and start hearing the rhythm of the exchange. That's the engagement switch at work. You've exited evaluation mode and entered connection mode. You're no longer chasing approval, you're generating resonance. And that small change, repeated over time, rewires your brain's default response to social uncertainty. Instead of the question, "Am I being judged?" your neural pattern learns to ask, "What's happening here?" That's the difference between social tension and social flow, between trying to impress and simply expressing. Neuroscientists call this shift a reallocation of attentional resources, moving from self-referential processing in the medial prefrontal cortex to external sensory mapping in the parietal and temporal regions. In simpler terms, your brain stops watching you and starts watching life. The payoff is enormous, because every ounce of energy you used to spend self-monitoring gets recycled into clarity, timing, empathy, and confidence. You literally become more charismatic, not by adding behaviors but by removing friction. The people who seem effortlessly confident aren't fearless. They're simply engaged. Their attention doesn't orbit around their image, it anchors to the moment. That's why they seem magnetic. They make others feel seen. And here's the hidden beauty of it. When you stop focusing on yourself, people start focusing on you. Not because you demand attention, but because your presence pulls it in naturally. The paradox of social confidence is that it appears when you stop chasing it. The engagement switch isn't about pretending not to care what people think. It's about realizing that people think far less about you than you imagine. The brain's approval loop evolved in small tribes of 50 to 100 individuals, where social feedback was immediate and survival-based. But now you live in a world of thousands of micro-audiences, in person, online, everywhere. Your social brain hasn't caught up. It still treats every potential disapproval as a threat signal. Every unread message, every silence after you speak, every neutral expression gets filed as danger. The result is constant low-grade performance anxiety. But once you know the mechanism, it loses its power. The loop only runs when you feed it attention. The moment you break the inward gaze, it collapses. And what replaces it isn't emptiness, it's freedom. You can test this right now. Remember the last conversation that made you overthink? Bring up that memory. You probably see it like a movie from a third-person angle. Yourself talking, your facial expression, their reaction. Now imagine flipping the lens. See it again, but this time through your own eyes, as if you're in the room. Notice the texture of the chair, the tone of the other person's voice, the light in the space. What happens to the anxiety? It fades, because your brain stops editing the scene and starts living it. That's the engagement switch in memory form. And once you train that habit in real time, your entire social experience changes. Confidence stops being an emotion and becomes a direction of focus. Let's break the model down into something you can actually use. 3 simple layers you can practice in real time. I call them observe, anchor, engage. Observe is the moment you catch the loop. That flash of awareness when you realize, wait, I'm performing again. Most people treat that as failure. They think, I did it again, I'm overthinking. But that's not failure. That's step 1 of mastery. Awareness is interruption. Every time you notice the loop, you're already halfway out of it. The brain can't sustain the same automatic pattern once it's being observed. The circuit needs your attention to survive, and by shining light on it, you start to weaken its grip. So the next time you hear that mental whisper, "Did I sound stupid?" Don't fight it. Just label it. That's the prediction loop. Then move to the next layer, anchor. This is where you flip the camera outward. Choose one external cue in your environment and rest your focus on it for 5 seconds. The color of a shirt, the sound of a chair creaking, the way light hits a wall. It doesn't matter what. What matters is that it's real, present, physical. This shift isn't symbolic, it's neurological. When your sensory system activates, your prefrontal cortex regains control, pulling you out of the limbic self-evaluation loop. Your body follows, shoulders drop, breathing deepens, your nervous system resyncs with reality. And then comes the third layer, engage. From that anchored state, speak or act from genuine curiosity. Ask a question, respond without filtering. Notice the human in front of you, not the imaginary audience in your head. That single cycle, observe, anchor, engage, is the 5-second attention shift that rewires your social prediction circuit. Because every repetition teaches your brain a new association. Social attention equals outward focus, not inward defense. Over time, your baseline changes. You walk into a room and your nervous system no longer scans for judgment. It scans for cues of connection. You begin to read others, not yourself. That's what true confidence feels like. It's not the absence of fear, it's the absence of self-focus. And when you understand that, You stop chasing confidence as a feeling and start practicing it as a direction of attention. Now let's address the resistance that might be forming in your mind right now. You might be thinking, but what if people really are judging me? They might be. But here's what psychology tells us. Humans dramatically overestimate how much others notice or care about their mistakes. It's called the spotlight effect. In one famous study, researchers had participants walk into a room wearing an embarrassing t-shirt. Most of them predicted that half the group would notice. In reality, fewer than 10% did. The truth is, everyone else is trapped in their own prediction loops, wondering what you think of them. That means every conversation is two people silently trying to manage their self-image in front of the other. The first one to drop the act creates safety for both. And that's the superpower you gain when you practice the engagement switch. You stop being the performer and become the anchor. Your calm attention tells the other person, you don't have to perform here. That's why people start opening up around you, trusting you, gravitating toward you. Presence is contagious. But here's the deeper reason this works so powerfully. Your brain doesn't actually crave approval, it craves prediction. It wants to know that social interactions are safe. When you focus on yourself, the data stream collapses. You stop reading the environment, so the brain fills the gap with worst-case guesses. When you focus outward, you give the brain real input. The uncertainty drops, the threat response cools, and suddenly, confidence doesn't need to be forced. It's the natural byproduct of clarity. That's the hidden science behind social ease. You're not fixing your thoughts. You're updating your data source. You're teaching your nervous system that reality is always less dangerous than imagination. This is why small behavioral cues can rewire entire belief systems. Because your beliefs follow your body's signals. When your breathing deepens, your brain registers safety. When your eyes focus on one real detail, your amygdala stands down. When you feel your feet on the ground, your attention leaves the abstract world of what-ifs and re-enters the world of now. That's not a metaphor, it's how embodied cognition works. The body sends a constant stream of information to the brain, shaping how it interprets the world. Change the stream, and you change the story. This is also why self-consciousness is so exhausting. You're not just thinking, you're running a full-body alert system with no real danger to respond to. The heart beats faster, micro-muscles tighten, eyes dart for micro-feedback. It's like trying to drive a car with the parking brake on. The engagement switch releases that brake. The more you practice it, the more your nervous system learns that being seen isn't a threat. It's just sensory input. So here's a small experiment I want you to try today. The next time you walk into a room, before you say a word, pause for 2 seconds and direct your attention outward. Feel your feet, notice one sound, let your eyes rest on something real, then engage. Don't force confidence, let awareness do the work. You'll feel it instantly. Conversations flow easier, your timing sharpens, your brain stops narrating and starts participating. You become fully human again, expressive, relaxed, present, and others will feel it too, though they won't know why. They'll just sense something magnetic, something grounded. That's the paradox. The less you try to impress, the more impressive you become. Let's zoom out. The bigger idea behind all this is that confidence is not a personality trait. It's an attentional skill. And like any skill, it strengthens with repetition. Every time you catch yourself in the approval loop and flip the focus, you're training a new reflex. The first 100 times it'll feel mechanical. The next 100 it'll start feeling natural. Then one day you'll realize the shift happens automatically. You enter a room and your brain instantly tunes outward. That's when you know the rewiring is complete. You've replaced the habit of self-monitoring with the habit of engagement. And from there, your entire social world changes. Opportunities open up. People respond differently. You stop filtering yourself and start expressing ideas clearly, boldly, without that micro-hesitation that used to hold you back. And the most important part, your energy stops leaking. Because social overthinking is an energy drain. It's not just mental, it's metabolic. Every moment of self-surveillance costs your brain glucose. When you remove that background process, your mind runs cleaner. You end the day less tired, more focused, more alive. Think about what that means long-term. Every time you use the engagement switch, you're not just fixing a conversation, you're reshaping your identity. You're teaching your brain, I am safe in visibility. That's the foundation of authentic confidence. Not fake bravado, not charm tricks, but nervous system level safety in being yourself in front of others. From that safety comes natural charisma. You stop trying to sound right and start sounding real. And reality is infinitely more attractive than performance. So here's your one challenge for the next 24 hours. Pick one social interaction, a meeting, a call, even a simple chat, and use the 5-second attention shift. Observe the loop, anchor to something real, engage from that state, that's all, 5 seconds. You don't need to change your personality or rewrite your past. You just need to change where your attention lives. Because when your attention leaves self-judgment and lands in the present, you stop being an actor in your own story and become the witness of it. And from that place, everything flows differently. People feel your calm, your clarity, your ease. You walk through the same situations, the same rooms, the same conversations, but the experience is completely new. The world didn't change, your focus did. And that tiny shift is all it takes to stop worrying about what people think, because now you're too engaged with life to care. The loop is broken, the signal is clear, and your presence is finally your own.